Good evening. Yat eh, yat eh. In Navajo, yat eh means, hey, hello, good day, and everything good. I learned a lot about my own language through B-Westerns and old movies in boarding school way back when the government instituted a culture of acculturation and assimilation to get us into a major American society as fast as possible, so we wouldn't be a drag on society. So one of the things they did was they showed us a lot of old Western, B-Westerns, where natives were always bad. They were always in a bad light. The cavalry always came over the hill just in time to save everybody else. So nobody wanted to be a native, when we were playing war, stuff like that. But I learned a lot about my own language. It's funny. There's an old war movie set in Italy, I guess, back in the days, and I guess there was a Navajo actor in there, and the director told him, we're going to have to use this language somehow. So he asked the Navajo guy, you're going to get shot, and when you're falling over, just say something in Navajo. Something's final and something fantastically profound. So the Navajo guy didn't really know what to say, so the scene came, and the war began, whatever, and he got shot. The guy got shot, and while falling over, he yells, "Yatahey!" So when we saw that movie, we just sort of looked at each other and said, wow, what was that all about? Or crazy movies, like, an old black and white movie about the Plains Indians, Sioux people sitting in the teepee plotting a major attack on the fort the next day. And they were talking, they're plotting, and they were told to speak their own language. Of course, Navajo being predominant language, a lot of actors at the time, native actors were playing Sioux and other tribes. So they were told to speak their own language, so it'll look authentic, like you're plotting something. So the movie goes, and then the Navajos, the native people, the Sioux people are sitting in the teepee, and one of them says to the other, the other one said, and then the other one said, what they were saying was, when I get paid after this movie, I'm going to go to Gallup and buy me a pickup truck. I've been looking at it. And one of the other guys sitting on the side said, you guys are getting paid? But going along the line, I write a lot about dark stuff. Like John said, I write dark things as a way of externalizing a lot of pain. Growing up in boarding schools and that brutal institution, growing up in a culture that was always put down, growing up as brown in this country in this time, of course, there was always never had a lack of cause to bleed for. And so the Indian War continues. In a lot of ways, was unexplained fears that was drilled into us as growing up. And one of them I call, well, it'll ruin it if I tell you the title. When I was very young, I gazed upon the faces of frightful gods. I stepped near discarded mystery lying among desert shrubs. When I was very young, stories of them who walk by night scratched upon my door and peered down my smoke hole. When I was very young, I saw lights of spirits darting round in circles, unseen hand in darkness. When I was very young, white man's seasons of ghosts and deformities chilled my youth, his glee in my fears. When I was very young, the most frightful of all was a limp child's toy, Raggedy Ann. I didn't really have any particular pieces. I thought of reading something from the live, but everybody reads it, so I didn't want to go through that again. This is a story. I write stories. Sometimes I hit upon funny things unintentionally. But I read a lot. I read a lot about just a narrative about what's going on in my life. I wasn't raised a writer. I just enjoy writing because writing is just very complementary to painting. What I do, I live in my own world. I live in my own design, my own concocted reality. And of course, the painting I use is sort of a neo-impressionist, set in my own unconventional reality. And so from that, I see a lot of things. So a lot of paintings I do are put into words, stories, and never painted. A lot of paintings, and vice versa. And kind of going off on Jesse's little entrance there. This is called Slipping. It's a true story. A friend of mine, a few years ago in Kayenta, where we used to live for 10 years, K-Town, we call it affectionately, slipping. Like drunkards we were, we staggered along in the rain-soaked clay. The rain continued steadily on, mocking our slow progress towards our goal, a teacher housing project in the distance. Alcohol and rain haze made it difficult to judge space and time. We slipped simultaneously and fell side by side in the mud. This was the 5th or 6th time. We struggled to our feet, our glasses smeared with clay, our hair matted with mud, and my white shirt the color of Kayenta gray. Slightly stooped, we half-dragged each other across another 100 yards. Occasional saltbush and snakeweeds challenged us. Aged beer cans and wine bottles peeked up through the mud. Another tale, another time far past. My friend Scott and I started out around midday, drinking a few beer with Mike, another friend. We didn't expect rain. It was late afternoon now, I think. The rain distorts time. Deciding not to drive on the highway, we took the back way home, the old road that ran past a dump and wine wherever the arroyos didn't. Snaking out towards the trailer court where we each had a lot with rent. Halfway through our plans, we stopped. He parked his Subaru about 100 feet ahead of my truck. We sat in the back of my pickup truck inside the camper with the tailgate down. We drank beer and traded thoughts. We talked about love, lust, and our own discoveries. We sang a few songs, mostly Dylan and Merle, a few Willies and some gospel. We sat there for over an hour, and it got late. We decided it was time to move on. We realized it was raining all along. We really didn't expect rain. He drove off ahead of me. I followed and quickly found that the road had muddied up so bad and I began slipping. In some areas, the ruts became little arroyos, deep and narrow. Into such an arroyo, I slid this afternoon. After several futile attempts of getting out, I just got stuck deeper. Scott came back and we surveyed the situation, decided help was what we needed. Back at the trailer court, we tried unsuccessfully to recruit muscle vehicles. We finally returned to my truck, negotiating dishes and muddy traps. Only to slide into the same deep rut 20 feet behind my truck, he did. After another can of beer each, we chose to walk to the teacher housing. That was much closer than we lived. The muted dark slash of building in the distance was our hope. Scott slipped again, taking me with him. We came up laughing, face caked with mud. His pale skin and light hair, my bronze Navajo skin and dark hair was indistinguishable. We were equal in the mud. Progress is slow and tedious, unsteadiness by the slippery clay and a few packs of watered-down Utah beer. We were moving steadily when we came upon the first of several deep and wide arroyos. We slipped down into the muddy brown water below. We scrambled up to the other side, sliding back into the water a few times. I kicked off an old diaper and other debris that was clinging from the muddy water. We could see the housing clear now. It was deceivingly close. We had a ways to go and were tired. The sheet that held a few cans of beer was now a lump of clay in my arm. We felt and looked like rough clay sculptures lurching across the broken landscape. A second arroyo had us lying in the mud for a few minutes, catching our breath. We didn't expect rain. We didn't expect to be stuck in the mud, and we certainly didn't expect to be lying here like mud clowns of ceremonies. Despite the constant drizzle and frequent contact with the earth, it was warm. I tossed away the muddy beer in the sheet. Perhaps one day it will peer out and taunt another wayward adventurer. We finally made it to the clearing where slabs of concrete lie in readiness for more housings. We stamped our feet and tried to remove as much mud as we could off ourselves. We have to look presentable when we impose on our friends. Massive earth-moving machines were parked nearby, invincible and bold in the rain. We talked of using it to pull our vehicles out. Scott was serious, but we had to move on. We crawled through the hole in the hurricane fence and staggered onto the pavement of the Kayenta Unified School District teacher housing. Feeling like aliens intruder about to corrupt a nice neighborhood, we stood there in the wet asphalt. What a contrast. Out of the wilderness and strife into geometry and convenience. We cleaned up some more, which wasn't much. My once white shirt was now the same color as my jean. This is not the day for white shirts. The rain had stopped and the mud clinging onto us were beginning to dry. I felt my face cracking where smears of mud were beginning to dry. I smiled and thought my whole face was going to fall off. Shafts of late afternoon light peeked through the overcast sky. I felt only rain on us and our paths. Fortunately for us, there was no lightning. We move on up the sidewalk. Clean cubes of housing with lawn lined the street. We felt like intruders, germs in the sterile space. A young man in a t-shirt and trunks stood there on the sidewalk. We exchanged pleasantry. He's new to the community and this is his first impression. We left him amused and a little scared, I believe. Scott and I stumbled into the backyard of a good friend, both teachers. We collapsed onto the lawn chair. They invited us in, muddied and all, but we declined. We like to think we have some degree of pride and principle. We sat out there and talked with our friend, giving them the detail of our adventure that afternoon. We looked out toward the east, out past the concrete slabs and arroyos. Our vehicles glinted in the evening sun, parked innocently out in the distance like it will move at any minute. Curse the luck, curse the rain and the mud. We laughed and bumped the bellies. Another friend helped us out of the mud later that night. It turned out that I was never in a four-wheel drive. And that I could have crawled out that afternoon and save us all the hardship. But then we wouldn't have a story. I pulled out Scott's Subaru the next day. It never ran again. There's a painting I did of a little angel bear hanging on top of a crib. And that's something that's my studio still. That's probably one of the more personal pieces I did. I paint a lot of pictures not to sell, but for me to kind of externalize darkness, pain, the most stabbing pains. You know, I do that just for me. Sometimes I don't expect it ever to be seen by the public. I just do it for me. And one of them I did was very sad, powerful. It's called Angel Bear. And it goes back to 1960 when I first was in a boarding school, in a government boarding school. When you think of boarding school, when you hear boarding school, you think of fancy, expensive boarding school of the East. The boarding school of the U.S. government is a really abusive, atrocious, very brutal institutions. So I did a series of that and somehow survived that. And I survived that, and I credit to doing art, to being creative and living the mind, away from reality, creating your own reality. And so that's today, you know, of course, my mantra is art save lives. Like a cherub, my baby brother Henry flew into our lives when I was very young. He was structured in such a mysterious way to me. I used to study him with caution. taking in a chubby little cheek, the massive black hair, and the stubby little fingers. I used to think that maybe he wasn't real, because this was the first baby I was conscious of in my youth. Where his neck connected to his body, the fold of the baby fat resembled the toy dolls that you can take the head off. But this baby was real. It gurgled and cried and smiled and made strange other noises. It made my mother happy to hold him. It made my sister beam with pride. I found my family complete with this little baby. He was the youngest of 9 brothers and sisters. My little brother slept in the wrought iron crib painted gold in the corner of our hogan. The crib was probably a gift from my uncle in Flagstaff. Strange yet comforting sound softly caressed the dark corner of the cedar-walled hogan. In the night, his hunger cry used to wake me briefly. My mother's soft late-night songs and feeding in the dim flickering firelight lulled me back to sleep. Above him, nailed to the wall, was a small stuffed bear. It was reddish in color and possessed a pair of angel wings. This bear presented just as much a mystery as my brother. Somehow the old bear and my brother kept each other company, and he was never far from this angel bear. Maybe it was another gift from my uncle, who was a preacher. He was also a decorated veteran of the Pacific conflict. His world was far and foreign from mine. My father's medicine and chant colored and enriched my world. I did not know what this angel bear was. It just floated there above my brother's crib, a guardian angel, I was told. They communicated in silence. Before he was a year old, I had to leave for boarding school. I didn't see nor hear from my family the whole fall that year. The government school denied you access to your parents in order to acculturate you faster. That was the belief of the day. Those cold autumn days without the comfort of my family, and especially my little brother, was hard. The coldness cut through your spirit as the chillness through the Kwanzaa hut dormitories. Christmas came, and we were finally allowed to visit our family for 2 weeks. The hogan was unusually quiet that evening when we came home. The cold December moon rose lonely among the indigo empty of stars. My parent, reserved and silent, added to the emptiness and settled in the time as should be Joyce coming home. Cautiously, I approached the crib in the corner, expecting to be greeted with gurgles and movement. The crib was empty. There were folded blankets where my brother used to be. I looked around the dark of the hogan. No Henry, no baby brother of mine. My mother gazed at my anxiousness with sadness. I had never seen that on her face before. Anadza shiyaj, anadza nit neganalti. He's gone away, son. He left us last month in the night. She spoke through tears. We couldn't get to word to you kids. We were not allowed to. I remained stunned through the night. I felt incomplete and lack of will to live in a day that follows. I was afraid to ask for details of his leaving. Tradition dictates I not even mention his name. I walked the frozen ground that went with his name upon my tongue and his chubby cheeks in my vision. I cried. The only remnant of his existence was the angel bear, which hung there, nailed to the log wall for many more months. Sometimes I found myself trying to get answers from the stuffed animal. I gazed upon its frozen smile and blue eyes, trying to see what it saw that night. Sometimes afterward, I began resenting it. I was told it was the guardian bear. The angel bear failed. It allowed the darkness to take my brother. I saw it with hatred. I wanted to tear into its stuffed interior and discard it among the sagebrush. The angel bear vanished from our lives as mysteriously as it appeared. I never saw it again. The gold crib remained a few more years, then it too disappeared. Years have dulled the edges of the pain. Still some night I feel the gurgle in the corner as the angel bear and my brother once again enjoy each other's company. respite. It's a love poem. In the desert, a tree stands almost straight, roots hidden in the centuries, arm heavy with life. Leaves shelter me from the hot and empty sky. Wind gather in the branches, singing. Leaves flutter against my face. I huddle closer. When I have no more ribbon or hawk feathers to hang on the bark, I'll crawl back to the gullies and glinting rocks. The tree will go on bursting and stretching to all directions. Its pollen will be carried on the back of clouds. When I'm inside the earth, songs will ring in my skull. Inside a canyon into which I'm falling, salt tears on my tongue. Feathers from Batarican drift down like stars crossing empty space. I fall and I listen to my heart. Listen how it beats a single rhythm, matching echoes of your voice. This Cayente chant. From somewhere beyond the arroyo, it cuts across the sunset, persistent, regular. Through snow-white gullies, I follow the sound up the hill, strewn with lava and flower. The mountain quails disappear down the yellow wash, emerges spinning on the branch, calling the female, never losing track. You who don't like to talk, here it's peaceful all around. Sometimes a sheep bell, always their wings, whirring ravens. Pounding the air, sparrows with folded wing plunging cliffs. Rust and black before the rain comes. You hear the wind gathering a long way off. On the red earth I sleep, Navajo Mountain to the west. In the thick of night, owls talking. I dream that you return without telling me. All night the wind blows till dawn. It blows steadily. When I was in college and living in Berkeley, California, I had these most amazing dreams, powerful dreams, the dreams that I should do something about. The Navajo culture, when you have dreams that it just totally shakes you, the dream that is really lucid and has a language for you, you always consult a medicine person. And there's a ceremony, a certain small ceremony that kind of helps to move that into positive, into something good. I didn't have access to any medicine man when I lived in Berkeley, so I started writing my own. I started writing everything. Powerful dreams, dreams that I was afraid of. I wrote that out, became my own medicine man. So all this time I was writing in kind of like a poesy form about my dreams. And so that was the way I started writing. I didn't write for anybody else but me. I wrote for therapy. I wrote for self-preservation. I wrote to the rhythm of my own culture. And so I had powerful dreams. Sometimes I post them on Facebook. Sometimes I don't. But that's how I came. That's how I came to learn how to write. I never took any writing class. I got my Bachelor of Fine Arts degree in art history, and primarily in the Italian Renaissance period. And I love that period. So that's where a lot of my inspiration, aspiration, visions come from. It's just from a little thing from a dream. It's called The Quest. Actually, I don't know what it's called, but it is a dream. The driver had been told that a rough road were ahead. My truck sped on and dropped drastically in elevation. Vegetations and temperature changed as we entered a lowland. The air is thicker and we seemed heavier. Snakes are about, hiding in shadows, while frogs hopped out onto our path. Cactus and briars grabbed out for us from all directions. Settled in the cool dampness of the Hogan, I noticed it is dusk. My sister goes walking among the hills. I worried about her in the desert night. The owner of the Hogan returned with his family and says he doesn't mind us being there. I questioned him about an old village ruin, the object of my delirious journey. The name in some language is in the name somewhere. He almost revealed my mystery, almost produced a map. He drew pictures instead, pictures on cardboard, nice and clean, bold and spontaneous, lines that made me jealous. The afternoon early, we drove through familiar landscape where at one time before, I, as a fugitive, traveled with a sad troubadour. He was also looking for his village, expecting it slashed across the arid land. And technology threatened him, created chaos in his lyrics. An ancient chamber of commerce gave away maps with holes in the middle. The lowland is full of people, yet void of sound. Children threw rocks into the sky to see who gets hit on its return. The roadsides are thick and dark at night like long, sleek highway piercing orchard of rotten oranges. I get lost. Truth. Truth is not lying dead in the battlefield of some far-off country. Truth is not promised, courted, and spurred every 4 years. Truth is a fire in the heart of you and me. Truth is our love, hatred, joy, and fears. Truth is not amassing tools of our doom. Truth is not stared in living rooms. Truth is here on Mesa Top with plenty of room. Truth is my mother coming home with sheep quite late. Truth is not hidden behind mask or left dead outside the soul. Truth is not given to misplaced, mismatched hearts. Truth is you who took me in from the cold. Truth is happiness and pain when we're apart. Truth is loving you.